Boom. Google Analytics, a crash course in GA4. Of the sessions that we have seen today, this is probably going to be the most punk rock of the lot because after sitting through the last two, I can tell you right now, mine is not nearly as slick or well rehearsed or even as well designed in the slide department. My name is Pat Cooney. Hello, everybody. I am the community engineer for a SaaS company here in Ottawa, Canada called ProntoForms. Before that, I spent close to 5 years working for a data analytics company that was partnered with Google. So we worked with Google Analytics all the time. Now, one thing I am going to say is that I was not an actual data analyst. I was an implementation specialist. So I worked with our clients to make sure that they were setting their websites up to be able to collect the data that they wanted to then look at afterwards. But I wasn't the person who then took that data and did the analysis and built the reports and the dashboards and did all that fun stuff. Just want to make that clear for everybody. But I do know enough to be dangerous. And today we're going to talk about Google Analytics 4, brand new Google Analytics 4. What I want to cover in our session today is key concepts of Google Analytics. We'll talk about the Google Analytics structure, and then we're going to get off these slides and actually get into looking at Google Analytics 4. We'll take a quick look at the interface. I'm going to show you some built-in reports. I'm going to show you how to make a custom report and some funnel reports, which will hopefully allow you to start collecting some data that you can use to build the super fancy dashboards that Venya showed you how to do, and then make them look all nice and pretty the way Amanda showed you how to do. All right, we're going to dive right in because I know that we only have limited time. Google Analytics key concepts. Big things to think about here is all data going into Google Analytics breaks into two different types. We've got our metrics and we have our dimensions. The metrics is the quantitative data. That's our numbers, number of visitors, length of time they sat on a page, number of conversions, that type of stuff. Our dimensions, that's the qualitative data. What country did the user come from? What age group segment do they belong to? What campaign brought the user to the site? What device are they using to check out our community? Metrics and dimensions. That's everything breaks down to either a metric or a dimension in Google Analytics. Now we have events. Google Analytics 4 is 100% event-based. This is brand new. The old version of Google Analytics was user-based. We are now events-based. Every single thing, the basic unit of measurement for engagement between your user and your website or mobile application is an event. An event can be a click on a page. It can be when you're scrolling on the page. It can be watching a video. It can be loading a page. They're all events. Very important to remember. And events are actually broken into your event name. And then those events can have various parameters, and those parameters will then be given a value. And the value is either going to be a dimension or a metric. So in this little table that I've drawn up, we have our event name of page view. That page view event, I'm showing you two parameters. There's lots of parameters that go into page view, but one would be page location. The other one would be page title. Location is going to be the actual URL. The title will be the title that comes out of the meta information in the HTML for the site. Another event name here, scroll. Its parameter engagement time in milliseconds, 2400 milliseconds. Venya, I see you typing, but I'm not going to spend the time to read it. So hopefully, yeah. Sessions. So all events by the same user during a given time frame are rolled up into what is known as a session. So a session is tracked from when the user enters your site to when the session is terminated. And that termination happens when either the user closes their browser or turns off their app, or they go dormant for 30 minutes. If the user opens up a tab and doesn't do anything in the tab for 28 minutes and then comes back and starts going again, still the same session. Yeah, so leaving the site doesn't necessarily trigger the end of the session because a cookie will potentially get set. So that's another thing to think about. So if they're back within 30 minutes, that cookie gets renewed and the session gets continued. And it's this idea of sessions versus users, which we can talk a little bit more when I start looking at the built-in reports. But those are two different numbers, and they're going to tell you two different stories. So sometimes you might want to look at the number of users that are coming to your site, but other times you might want to look at the number of sessions that are happening. So one user can have multiple sessions over a period of time, and you're going to get two different numbers there. Okay. Why isn't this working? Come on. Here we go. Users. Those are the people that are visiting your site or your app. Now, Google is going to identify a user in one of three ways. So either they're going to drop a cookie on that user's browser, and then they're going to use that cookie to determine whether or not this is the same person or somebody else. The other way that they're going to do it, and this is a little bit better than using a cookie because cookies can get erased, or if somebody's using, Safari, or they've got their browser set to, not use cookies and stuff like that, then those cookies are not getting set, and that's going to make your data not as accurate. If they've logged into any kind of Google service, Gmail, Google Docs, Android, that type of thing, then Google Analytics is going to use that Google ID to identify that person as a user. The best way that you can do it, though, and this will be a little bit challenging for those of us who are on platforms that won't give us that access, is if you can actually tell Google what the user ID is for somebody logging into your community. If you can do that, then you actually have the ability in Google Analytics to track right down to the user level and see what a specific user is doing when they're coming to the site, even if they haven't logged into your site necessarily. So if you have the ability to do that, it's awesome. A lot of us, myself included, don't have the ability to do that. We need to define on the other stuff. User IDs aren't hellish. I wonder what that means. Okay. I should stop reading the chat. It's too distracting. We've got segments. So segments are how we're going to group our users together based on dimension or category. So we can segment by physical location. We can segment by the device type that is being used. We can segment by the traffic source that users are coming from. And that's a good way that we can start organizing our data. We can compare segments to other segments. Or am I getting more people engaging on a mobile device versus a desktop, or age group, or, that type of stuff. So those are segments. We've got conversions. So conversions, that's just when a user completes a specific action that you want them to take. That conversion can be anything. It's up to you to decide what is a conversion. It could be downloading a document. It could be watching a video. It could be registering for an event. It could even be just clicking on a link or showing up on the homepage. Could be a conversion. You have the ability in Google Analytics to go in and set an event to be a conversion event. And once you've done that, then you can start getting reports built on these conversion events. Source and medium. So this is pretty cool stuff. Now we're getting into like actual campaign tracking and stuff like that. And we can set these, and I'll show you in a little bit how we can set these specifically. Google is going to set these on their own, but we can go in and add our own source and medium information. So source is the origin of the traffic coming to your site. So it's coming from Twitter, it's coming from Google, it's coming from Instagram. The medium is the category of the source. So the built-in mediums that Google uses would be organic search, social, referral, direct traffic. Direct is when they type it right in. Referrals, if it's like coming from like a link off of another website, that type of stuff. So you'll see source and medium already existing in your data if you haven't done anything, because Google will set some of this stuff up automatically. But we have the ability to set these ourselves, which is really powerful for us in situations like mine, where the platform that I use doesn't allow me to get into, building fancy custom events or anything like that. So I can use the source and medium and campaign data in my URLs to get a little bit more information as to how people are at least getting to my site, and maybe possibly what they're doing once they get there. I'm going to show you that when we get to it. All right, I want to talk about the Google Analytics structure. If this is your very first time working with Google Analytics, this might be interesting. So we start with the overall Google account, and that's what you use to get into any Google service, Gmail, Google Docs, Android, that type of stuff. Then we build our actual Google account that you'll have access to through your larger Google account. So in this example, I've got two Google accounts, one for the company I work for and one for my personal website. Now, each of those Google accounts, I can create a property inside. So my personal website, it's just a website. So I've just created a single property, that website property. But the company that I work for has a website. We've got a mobile application. And I also want to get data that combines my website and my mobile application data together so that I can see how those are working in together. And I can do that by creating a whole new property just for the combined web and mobile app data, separate from the website data and the mobile data, which can be really great because now I'm not worried about data sort of cross contaminating. Everybody is in their nice little pocket, and I don't need to worry about that. Once we have our properties built, then we need to set up data streams, and that's what's actually going to push the data into those properties. So we can see here, if we look back at my personal site, which is nice and easy, we've got my personal site, the account, there's one property for the website, and it has one data stream, the web data stream. On the company side, however, where I've got my website, my app, and my combined web and data, I've got two streams now. The web data stream is going into my website property, but it's also feeding into the combined web and app property. And on the other side, we've got the mobile app with the app data stream, and that data is going into the mobile app property and the combined web and app property. So really, this can start getting a little complicated and confusing, but I think probably for most of us, it'll be reasonably straightforward. But I just wanted to show how this all works out. Oh, well, thank you, Teresa. That's very nice. You just made my day. All right. So now I'm going to shut down the slideshow, and we will get to actually looking at what GA4 looks like. So I will stop sharing here. You can look at my pretty face for a second. And I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to open this up like that. I'm going to click on the share screen button. Oh, I'm doing great for time. Holy cow. I just barreled right through that. Apologies if I was moving too fast. I want to now click on this right here. I'm going to share that. All right. You should now all be looking at the Google Analytics homepage for this. I just created a little website that I just threw some data into for the sake of doing this presentation. I think I'd get my hand slapped probably pretty hard if I was sharing the actual Google Analytics account for the company I work for. So we're not going to take a look at that. But I do have some data in here that we can take a look at today while we're talking about the rest of this stuff. So let's very quickly take a look at the user interface. When we first log in, okay, you can see my mouse. Okay, so when we first log in, on the left-hand side, we have our main menu. Across the top here, we have the ability to select all the various accounts and then the properties inside those accounts. And if you remember the little model that I showed you on the previous slide, that's where you see all that type of stuff. We've got a search bar, which is actually remarkably good. I use this all the time, even if I'm just trying to think like, oh, how can I build this report? The AI that they've put into GA4 is actually pretty darn good, as well as the machine learning for building out some interesting reports and stuff like that. So definitely use that search window. It will also direct you to the Google Help pages. Which is really cool as well. So well done, Google, on your search in GA. we've got sort of the main homepage, and this just defaults to a bunch of widgets that they think is maybe going to be something that you're interested in. If we look at this, I've got right in the middle, the last 7 days. This is just the number of users that have hit my little demo website. I had 25 users. All 25 of them were new. And that was actually on purpose. I did that on purpose. 247 events were logged and an average engagement time of 22 seconds. If you're seeing a 22-second engagement time, you might want to consider doing something different with your community, because clearly people are not sticking around. But this is all test data, remember, so that 22 seconds is what I expect. If there were actually people on my little test website right now, I'd be able to see them in real time right here. In fact, I could even go right here to the you don't see and hop onto my little test page. And in a second here, this number should pop into a number 1, and you'll see that somebody from Canada is now on the site. It gives me some recently accessed reports. So you can see that I've was doing some stuff in here, taking a look at things, and it would allow me to sort of jump back into where I was at before. Some other stuff, the countries. Because this is test data and it's only been me putting it in, I've only got visitors from Canada. I can take a very quick look at the type of sessions that are going on, the views to the various pages, as well as some insights and recommendations. If there was more data here, these dashboard pieces would look a little bit more interesting. What we would probably want to do, though, is spend the time getting into not what's on the default homepage, but taking a look at the actual reports that are in here. So if I go to my little menu over here and hop into reports, I have my reports snapshot, which is very similar to what we saw on the homepage. We can take a look at some real-time reporting. It's kind of annoying me that I'm not getting any real-time users from me just logging into the site right now, but that's how it goes when you're running a demo, right? The real-time report can actually be cool because you can actually drill it right down to the user and actually see them going through your site right at the moment that they're doing it. But where you're probably going to spend most of your time, certainly with this initial taking a look around and just pulling out some very basic data, is going to be in these life cycle reports. So we've got some actually pretty useful built-in life cycle reports that we can take a look at. What I like to do for some of the real basic reports that I'm building for my community and giving information to my my manager and my executive is taking a look at this traffic acquisition report here, and that's going to give me info on stuff like where people are coming from when they're coming to our site, like how they're getting there. But it also gives me information on my users, my number of sessions. I like this. This is new for GA4 is engaged sessions. So if you have a session where somebody's just gone there and then hasn't done anything, well, that's a session. If they're actually going through and logging events, then it's an engaged session now. So just those 3 numbers right there are going to tell you a very different story. 25 users, 29 sessions, only 18 engaged sessions. Average time of engagement per session is good to know. The number of sessions per user can be very interesting as well. I haven't quite figured out how I would use events per session yet. That's going to give me an indication potentially of really how active each of those sessions are. Again, engagement rate. There's all sorts of stuff you can go through on this table. You can see it on a little graph here if you want to take a look at that. This side of the table here, though, our sessions default channel group. What this is telling me is that through an email campaign or like an email, not campaign, but an email source, that's where I've got the most number of my users. The organic social So if they were clicking through a link that was posted to Twitter or something like that, I got 8 users out of that, and direct somebody who actually typed it in directly, only 5 users. So looking at this data, I'm sending out an email campaign like a newsletter or something like that. That's where most of my users are actually coming from. That's an interesting thing to note. The other place that you can go look for some, what I would say is reasonably decent. Teresa's asking for this demo, how customized did you get versus defaults? Well, what we're looking at right now is all default. So the data that I put into it is really just basic page view events. So this is about as basic and default as you can get for what we're looking at right here. And these reports are 100% built-in default reporting. So if you just start grabbing data without doing anything to it, you'll be able to look at these reports and get exactly what you're seeing here out of it. So the other thing that I like to look at is in the engagement section is these pages and screens, because one of the things that I like to look at is how are my posts doing in my community. Now, my specific community, and this is definitely a your mileage may vary type situation, but in my community, we have a lot of our content as being publicly viewable. You do not need to be a member of my community to go and see like 85-90% of the content that's in that community. And what that means is if I'm looking at the reporting that's coming directly from my community platform, it's going to be able to tell me how many members have logged in, and it's going to tell me how popular a post was based on those members that have logged in. But I'm not necessarily going to be able to see how many observers, lurkers, whatever term you want to use, are checking out those pages. And for me, if we start talking about context, I can probably get a much better understanding of how much value my community is potentially giving to our customers by looking at what pages are quite popular in my Google Analytics data, because potentially we've got customers who are doing Google searches on a very specific term, and our community post is coming up on that Google search, and they're looking at the post, and that's answering the question that they had, and then they're moving on with their day, having successfully answered the question. The only way that I can figure out whether or not that is happening is by taking a look at a report like this in Google Analytics, at least as far as I know. If somebody's got a better way, I would absolutely love to hear it, because this is still going to be iffy at best, right? But let's take a look here. Pages and screens. Now, here are the 4 pages that I set up in my little test website. I've got my landing page, sign up page, confirmation, payment page. These will actually mean something a little bit more when we take a look at the funnel report. But I can take a look now. Okay, of these 4 pages, the landing page was the most successful. It's had the most number of views, the most number of users, views per user, average engagement time. Now, average engagement time, my confirmation page, people sit on the confirmation page longer than they sit on the landing page. Why is that? Who knows? We need to start looking at other things to try and figure out what these numbers actually mean. But here's a bunch of numbers that we can use to start figuring out the larger story, right? One thing I do want to point out on this page is that right now, by default, we're looking at page title. Depending on the software that you're using, you can have multiple pages that have the same title. Group home could be a common title used across a number of different pages on your community. I don't know. What is probably going to give you more useful information is not looking at the page title, but looking at the actual URL of the page where the people landed. Because then if you've got multiple pages with the same title, you're able to now pinpoint which page they're actually looking at. There's 2 ways that we can do that off of this base report. One is we can change just this main column here to page path and screen class. Or I can actually add this as a second dimension. And I actually prefer to add this as a second dimension because I do like seeing that page title, because sometimes the URL doesn't actually tell me what the page is. But if I've got the URL and I've got the page title, now I know what page they're actually going to. So add a second dimension to this. All I need to do is click on this little plus button, and I've got all the dimensions here that I can start pulling from. Now, I know that the dimension I'm looking for is under this page and screen, but if I didn't know that and I want to know, oh, what's the page path? I can just search path. Oh, yeah, page path. Okay, let's add that. Boom. Now I can see sign up page, and there's, the actual URLs that go with that. And you can see here, even by doing this, I now have two different URLs being used for test landing page. Now, in this instance, it's kind of the same thing. If there was more data, if this was a more built out demo example, you could probably see examples where you would see multiple pages with the same title with different URLs. So that's information that you can get with just dropping the Google Analytics tag onto your community and just walking away. And as far as I'm concerned, this is actually some reasonably decent data to really start looking at, especially if you take this data and add it to the data that you're probably getting from your actual platform. There's more stuff that we can do though. And that's where we're going to get into campaign tracking. So we talked source and medium very, very quickly right off the top. And I was telling you that those can get automatically added by Google, but we can make our own versions. So Google has this awesome website, and I will share the URL in the chat here like this. Boom, boom. And this is their campaign URL builder. And this is awesome. And the rest of what I'm showing you is all harnessing what we can do by creating our very own campaign URL. So I'm going to add in my website. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill out the campaign source, the campaign medium, and the campaign name into this form. And you know what? I'm actually going to leave source and medium as is, because I'm going to pretend, for the sake of this example, that I am going to be taking this link and putting it into a newsletter that I'm going to email out to all of my members. My campaign name, geez, they've even filled out one that makes sense. Spring cohort sign up. Maybe I've got, a training session that we're going to be running for the spring. This is the email that we're sending out, the newsletter that we're sending out to try and get people to sign up for that. And I want to be able to get some tracking, some data to see how many people are coming to the community, to our website from this newsletter, from this link that I've shared in this newsletter. And once I have that, I can actually set something up to sort of see whether or not I'm getting them to actually sign up to be part of this spring cohort based on this email that I've sent out. And we can do this. I can create a, first let me show you what actually happens. So I fill all this in, I scroll down, and it creates this URL for me. And it adds in UTM source equals newsletter, UTM medium equals email, UTM campaign equals spring cohort sign up. And if we don't like that, we even have a little shorten link option. Make it nice and small. But really, it's this stuff. And if you've never seen this before, make a mental note, because now this is going to be one of those things where, like, I've told you, like, hey, how many yellow cars did you see? I didn't see any yellow cars today. And then, like, for the rest of the day, you're seeing nothing but yellow cars. You are going to be seeing UTM source, UTM medium, UTM campaign on every link you click from now on. I guarantee it. And if you really want to be like a real, like, not very nice person, like maybe this person sitting right here, and you want to share links with your friends, and you want to, like, not give people credit for it, you strip all that out of the URL and send it off to your buddy, and then it doesn't get tracked. And that's maybe not the nicest thing that you can do. And it depends on, I'll strip it out of, like, a link to a Facebook page, because I don't care if Facebook gets that data. If I've got a friend of mine who's, trying to actually get some decent data, I'm going to make sure it stays in. Anyways, you're going to see those all the time from now on. I guarantee it. So if we took this URL out and this is the URL that we're using for our email newsletter. Let's say that we also have a Twitter campaign that we're going to be running for exactly the same thing. And now I want to be able to get data to show me, well, how effective was the newsletter versus the Twitter campaign? So here's my URL for the newsletter. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to change my source from newsletter to Twitter. I'm going to change my medium from email to social. And I'm typing these in because they're what makes sense to me. You can throw in anything you want. If you wanted to change this to, you know, fuzzy bunnies, it's up to you. Now, fuzzy bunnies is probably going to be meaningless. And I suggest you use something that actually makes a little bit of sense. But I'm just want everybody to know that just because I'm typing social doesn't mean you got to type social. You can write whatever you want in any of these. You try and have it make a little bit of business sense. So now that I've done this, I now have a new URL that I can use in my Twitter campaign, and it's going to track anybody who clicks on it saying, yeah, they came from the Twitter campaign, which was part of my overall, social. It's a social medium, but it's still the same campaign. And by not changing this UTM campaign parameter, that's going to allow us to take a look at some cool stuff in Google Analytics. And this is great because I haven't had to do anything on my website. I haven't had to mess around with JavaScript, set up any kind of custom events or anything like that. So again, if you're in a situation like me with your platform says, hey, just drop your Google Analytics tag right here and we'll do the rest for you. And I say, oh, great, because I don't have any IT resources to get in and actually do any website development. Fantastic. This is going to allow you to get more information. I'm not going to say better information. I'm going to say more information. Whether it's better information or not, that's a whole other debate. All right, back to GA. So the first thing that I want to show you is just taking a look at source and medium. I want to build a custom report that's just going to expose source and medium. And that's going to be source and medium that maybe I've set using that campaign builder. It's also the source and medium that Google sets entirely on its own. And we can create one report that's going to expose all of that information for us, and we can use that to maybe pull out some interesting information. So to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to go into my traffic acquisition report here under the acquisition section. And this is the default, but now I want to change this. I want to make this custom. So I'm going to go all the way over to the right-hand side here. Oh, the other thing I didn't show you actually with any of these reports is we've got the ability to change the date range on them. Because this is something I threw together for this presentation, my date range is pretty short. But you can just go in here. You can choose from last 7 days, last 30 days, last 90, or you can set custom where you actually set the start and end date of the length of time that it's going to take a look. Sorry, I forgot to show that. Okay, we're going to customize this report. So I click on the customize. I'm going to go into report data. And what I'm worrying about right now is dimensions because I'm looking for source and medium, right? So I'm going to click on here. And here are all the primary dimensions that are already set up in this default report. I can add more if I want to, but thankfully, session source and medium is already set here for me. Now, you'll see that session default channel group is set to the default. I want source and medium to be set to the default. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the kebab menu here, and I'm going to choose set as default. And now my source and medium is going to be the default dimension that the table and the graphs use. I can, if I'm really making a custom report at this point, make the decision that maybe I don't care about default channel group and I can just remove this. I don't care about source platform. I can remove that. I don't care about the campaign. I can remove that. I can clean this up so that I'm just getting the information that I care about. And I can go back here. I can take a look at the individual metrics. What are the metrics I care about? Do I care about total revenue? No, I'm not selling anything. I can remove that. Do I care about event count? Maybe I don't care about event count. I can remove those. Do I care about conversion? Maybe I don't. Remove that. I can add other ones that I care about. But this is where you're going to customize the table that is getting displayed there on the bottom. We can set up a filter. No, I do this for very basic filtering out of our home office. I know that in my particular community, almost all of our customers are not based in Ottawa, where our home office is. So instead of having to worry about doing any IP filtering, which you can do, I can actually go in here and set a filter up to exclude anybody coming from geography, the city of Ottawa. And now I've filtered out potentially all of our staff that are going in here into the community that's potentially muddying up my data, because I don't care about whether the staff's coming to the community. I just care about whether or not our customers are coming. So that's a great way to very quickly filter out. Now, again, it's a bit of a broad stroke type filter. You can get a lot more in depth with IP filtering and that type of stuff, but it's an easy way to do it. And if you're okay with maybe losing, 10, 15 users, fine. Charts. As you can see, this one defaults with our line chart and our bar chart. We can reorganize that if we want. We can add different charts if we wanted to make it a scatter chart, if that makes more sense. So all ways that we can sort of build all this out. Let's not get into report template and summary cards now. We don't need to worry about that. But once we're happy with our custom report that we've built here, I'm going to save this. I can save the changes to the current report, which I don't really want to do, or I can save it as a new report, which is what I do want to do. I'm going to save that. I'm going to call this source medium report, because I can't think of anything more creative. Save that out. And it didn't get applied here because I didn't hit the apply button because I was getting ahead of myself. If I go back. Oh, yeah, because I didn't hit the apply button. I'm an idiot. Sorry. Let me do that again really fast. Here we go. Default, apply. I flipped this over here. I turned this to a scatter chart. I applied that. And where's my apply button? Apply. There we go. Save. And I'm going to save it to the current because it's still the source of medium. Okay. Now it's all done. Now in my table, we've got the charts here too, but now in my table, I can see how my newsletter, how my social on Twitter is doing. Here's a newsletter being called social. Direct and none, this is stuff that's just not getting set. And I can take a look at how people are getting into my website based on that information. So that's building a custom report. Being aware of the time, there's one more thing I would like to show you using those UTM parameters, and that is building a funnel report, which Venia talked about in her presentation. So what I did this past week is I've been feeding data in here that I used the campaign builder, very much like I showed you here, to create a fake I actually even called it March metrics, because I had an event, March metrics event, and I wanted to see how many people are coming from my newsletter, from Twitter, or just hitting the website, and going through the various stages that they would need to go through to actually sign up for this event. I've got a landing page, I've got an information page, I've got a purchase page, and I've got a confirmation page. Those are the 4 pages that somebody would need to go through to be able to sign up for this event. And I want to now be able to look at how is that event doing, or how did that event do? What various methods were more effective than the other ones? Because once I know that, I can make decisions moving ahead that will maybe allow me to get more people to sign up the next time I do it. So what I did is I went into this explore section here. And if you click on that, they have these start a new exploration, like preset templates that you can use. And I chose this funnel exploration template. They've got other ones that you can use if you want. But for me, I wanted to go with funnel exploration. And I created a new one here. I called it test funnel. And I'll open that up for you and we can walk through it. The time we've got. So I think I've got, I'm really getting close to running out of time if we're going to do any Q&A. But here is my funnel report. Actually, let's look at this one. Here's my funnel report looking at how people came to the website and whether or not they actually made it through to the confirmation. I get a nice, easy to look at graph. Here's the landing page. 100 people ended up at the landing page, which is to be expected. Of that, almost 58% made it to the actual sign up page. From that, 72% of those people, or 73% of those people, made it to the purchase page. And from that point, then 87 people made it to the confirmation page. I can take a look at this now by device category: desktop, mobile, tablet. What information can I get from that? Well, looks like more people are coming in via desktop, but as I scroll down here, it kind of evens out in terms of the actual confirmation at this point. So it doesn't seem that I've got a problem with people being able to do this if they're using a mobile device or their tablet, right? That can be really good information to get, because if you've got a lot of people signing up from your desktop and nobody signing up from your tablet, maybe there's a problem with the experience of trying to sign up with the tablet. That's one funnel I built from this. Another funnel I wanted to look at, though, is taking a look at how people actually showed up. Twitter and newsletter. Those were the two ways that I was getting people into my event sign up. And it looks like I actually did a pretty bad job of building the data here to really show a good comparison, because they kind of evened out in the end. Both of those ways to get people to sign up were, from what I can see here, kind of equally successful. But again, if I'd done a better job with the data on this, you could see like, oh, our newsletter is like really crushing it for getting people to sign up. The Twitter, maybe not so much. With that information, you can start making some changes. Okay, what do we need to do to up our Twitter game to get more people signing up via Twitter? Or do we not care? Maybe that's fine. Whatever. Twitter. Who cares? Nobody's on Twitter anyways, because you got ruined by some weird guy. And everybody's coming in from the newsletter, and that's great. We got lots of signups, and that's awesome. Maybe that's your decision as well. I'm going to very quickly show you what's going on here when you go in. We've got these two columns here on the left-hand side: variables and tab settings. Now, variables, this is going to allow you to set your name under exploration name, set your date range, and start building out what segments you might want to be looking at, the dimensions you might want to be pulling in for your data, and what metrics you might want to be looking at. And you have the ability to add or remove any of these, reorder them. But this is sort of giving you the pool of information that you are now going to use to start building out this report. And that is where we get into tab settings, because as you can see here, I've got two different tabs and they're giving me two different bits of information, but they're both pulling from whatever I've made available under this variables section. So let's look. Tab number one, our technique is funnel exploration, but we've got a bunch of different options that we can use for that. Our visualization, standard funnel. You can do a trended funnel if you want. You can even make it an open funnel if you want to see people coming in at different spots. We can set up a segment comparison, which is actually pretty cool to be able to build out on this report here. Steps is the most important thing, though, and that's what I want to spend a little bit of time on. To build your steps, I've got 4 steps here: landing page, sign up page, purchase page, confirmation page. If you go into edit, I'm going to show you how this is done. So step 1 is my landing page. What I'm looking for in this instance, and you might want to build this a little bit differently, knowing how I had my little demo site set up, is I wanted to look for step 1 is being defined by the page title matching my test landing page and the session campaign. And that's where I'm getting from those UTM parameters, right? The session campaign matching March metrics event. So those two conditions have to be true in order for us to say that, yes, somebody has made it to step 1, which I'm calling landing page. That was actually the hardest part for me to set up on this funnel. Everything else after that is I'm just looking that once they've done this and then is indirectly followed by, and you can actually change that to directly followed by, step 2, page title, test sign up page. Because at that point, I'm fine. I know that they've made that landing page. They've satisfied my criteria, and now I just want to see them go through. So now page title, test signup page title, test payment page title, test confirmation page, and we're done. I apply that, and I've created my funnel. So I think that is all the time that we have to go through that, if we want to leave it open for a couple of questions at the end. I apologize if I went through really, really quick. There was a lot to go over here. And I think, as you can see, there's a heck of a lot more that we can go through and cover. But I would like to hope that, at least with this basic information and the campaign URL builder, you can actually start pulling in some pretty decent data that's going to be able to give you a window on a lot of site performance, community performance, campaign performance information. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I think the next session starts at 5:20. So that means we've got 15, 16, 18 minutes to see if there's any questions. You are very welcome, Aaron. Thank you for the round of applause, Venia. Thank you, Beth, for the great presentation. Thank you, Lori. It's because I saw Lori and Goldman, and then I took the G from the Goldman and I put it in front of it, and then it became Gory. You know I love you, Lori. I am happy to answer any questions. I might not have all the answers. Question, okay. Vinny is saying, how many forum posts is a person going through on the knowledge base in an average session? I don't know, Vinya. How many forum posts has a person got? We could build a report to figure that out. Let's see. If we were to figure that out, if we were curious, we would want to build a custom report that looks at the number of pages that are logged during a specific session, and then use some way to be able to filter out those pages to just being knowledge-based pages. And how you filter that out is really going to be dependent on how your site, your community is set up. You might be able to do it through like a page title thing, or a part of the URL, something like that. But yeah, that would probably be how I would at least start doing that. Oh, another thing I can show you, well, not show you, but share with you, is if you want to go in and start looking at some demo data. Google offers a demo account to take a look at Google Analytics. Now, because Google is all about selling, their demo GA account, and here's the link for it right there, is for an e-commerce store. So it's e-commerce. I've lost the word, but it's set up for e-commerce, so the data isn't going to be maybe exactly the type of data that us as community people would be looking for, but it does allow you to get in there and see Google Analytics with a lot more data in it. The one thing that is unfortunate, though, is that you cannot build any custom reports in there. So if you want to start playing around with custom reports, you will need to create your own GA account for doing that. Okay, Venya's real question: what is your opinion, and how do you clean up your data since GA4 doesn't include filters? So, example, removing the HTTPS from Facebook URLs in the source medium page, merging f.co and Facebook data. Venya, I really hate to say this to you. I don't do that type of cleanup. Mostly because I'm actually not really looking at that. So, because I haven't done it myself yet, I haven't figured out how to do it in GA4, because it's not data that I'm pulling for any of the stuff that I'm actually doing reporting on. So I don't have an answer, as embarrassing as that is. And that's only because this is still new and I haven't come across a need to build that up yet. I mean, it was just the other day that I figured out how to do IP filtering. I can let everybody know that there is a lot of really good information in the Google Help documentation, but being somebody who has worked at a company that was partnered with Google for a long time, unless something has changed, Google documentation can be really bad, if not outright incorrect at times. So definitely go to the Google documentation and learn and read as much as you can. But Google search and look at other people who are in there all the time. Yeah, there is the Google Analytics Academy, as Venya has posted the link there. And there's even, even in LinkedIn, there's a couple of decent, just sort of basic tutorial stuff on setting up Google Analytics, which are free and worth going through. But there are lots of really good experts out there who are doing this stuff this is not my full-time job. There are people out there who this is their full-time job. They've figured this stuff out, and go check out those places. They're going to have the most up-to-date information as to how Google Analytics 4 is working, and will be able to point you in the right direction for trying to get whatever report you're looking to get built, going, whatever the right word is to use there. I can keep babbling for 10 more minutes if people want me to. Any other questions, please? I can tell you right now, the reports that are getting built here in Google Analytics do not look nearly as good as something that you'll be able to build in using a proper, data visualization platform. Can I show you how to set conversion flags? Well, I can show you how to turn an event into a conversion event. If I share my screen again. Which data visualization platforms do I recommend? The one that your company is willing to pay for. That's my official answer. I mean, I think Tableau is still the industry standard. I've never used Google Looker Studio. So if it's free, awesome. Go use that. People who really know how to use Excel can actually just take the data directly out of analytics as an Excel file and, set it up in there and start pulling stuff out and building dashboards just using Excel. You can totally do that. Oh, sorry. I see Sarah said, you made that look really easy. It will be easy-ish after we practice for a while. Yes, it will be. Yeah. I went fast because I knew where to click and where to click it. It's not really all that tough. So get in there, play around with it a little bit. Don't be afraid. As long as you don't try to overwrite any default reports, there's pretty much nothing that you're going to be doing in there that's going to erase stuff on you. So yeah, get in there, play around, and see what you can build out. Okay, setting a event to be a conversion event. You're going to want to go all the way down here on the left-hand side to this admin button. You're going to click on that, and you're going to go into your property. And you are going to go to conversions right underneath where it says events. You're going to go to conversions. And there are conversion events that are actually already, there's two that come preloaded with Google Analytics 4. It's this first landing visit and purchase. And then if you want to create another one, like I've tried to create event registration here, what you're going to do is you're going to go over here to where it says new conversion event. And you're going to click on that, and it's going to ask for a name, and you're going to type in the name of the event that you want to be set as a new conversion event. Now, if you want to make a custom event be a conversion event, what you'll need to do is after you do this, or maybe even before you do this, is back here in the property settings, just above where it said conversions, there's a little spot where it says events. And you can go in here and you can build yourself a nice little custom event. And to do that, you can click on this create event here. And you can start building out a custom event. So here are two custom events that I was working on. But if you click create at this point, you give it a name. And if you've already set the conversion, make sure that you give it the same name. And once you've given it a name, now you're going to start going through your matching conditions. So create a custom event when another event matches all of the following conditions. So we could do something like parameter being page title equals, or you can do does not equal or contains. It's nice because they have the ignore case, which is actually really handy. Starts with, ends with, greater than, less than, all that great stuff. So it's, page title equals home for whatever reason. I don't know. You add that condition. You can add more conditions if you want. Now, these are and conditions. They're not or conditions, and that's very important to remember. These are ands. It's got to meet every single one. If you put 7 conditions in here, every single one of those 7 conditions needs to be met in order for this event to actually be fired and have that go. So once you've done that and you give it a little name, fake underscore event, and you create it, Come on. Did you create? Usually, no. Stay here. Why aren't you? Oh, it's because of this, right? I need to erase that. Okay, there we go. Create. Here's my fake event created under my events. And if I go back to my conversions, new conversion event. I give it the name of fake underscore event because that's the one that I created, and I save it. It is now a conversion event and will now, if you've done everything properly, if you go back to your reports and you go into your engagement, there's this conversions built-in report here, and you can then start pulling in what your various conversions are, and it'll start showing you here. And because this is all e-commerce stuff, it's going to give you a number value, monetary value. Okay. It's not complicated. It's just convoluted. Did that cover it, Venya, what you were looking for with the conversion stuff? Yuppers. Awesome. I like that. I suppose in the last couple of minutes, for those that are still here, I'll share my screen yet again. Because if you know how to use Excel, which I kind of don't, if you have a report that's pulling out the data that you actually want to use, and you are good at Excel or you're trying to merge it with other data, the way that you get that out is one of these buttons here, share this report. So you have the option to share the link if you just want to send it off to somebody, or we've got download file. And you can download as a PDF or you can download it as a CSV. So that's how you get the data out. Yes, Venya, I completely agree that this was a good combination from top down. Data viz, and then applying it to dashboards, and then filling them out with actual data. Though it's funny because I think I probably would have done it the exact opposite way. Get the data first, then figure out what you're going to do with that data, and then figure out how to display it properly. But as long as all 3 things were covered, regardless of the order that they were covered in, I think anybody who's gone through this hopefully has got a much better understanding of the way that they can start presenting their data, looking at their data. Yeah, collect, store, visualize. That's right. And again, if if you're like me and you're not awesome in Excel, or you don't have access to fancy data visualization software, um, there's actually a fair bit you can still do just within Google Analytics, and hopefully I showed some of that here this afternoon. Um, and in terms of the visualization, there's really it. You get how data is you get how Google presents it to you, and there's nothing you can do that way. But um, yeah, I'll just, I guess, reiterate, because right now I'm really just spinning my wheels. Uh, reiterate that what we're seeing here in Google is numbers. These numbers can tell you all sorts of different things. Some of it correct, some of it incorrect. You need the context to really understand what these numbers are telling you. Um, and I guess understand that these numbers aren't precise that we're getting in Google Analytics. We can do a lot to make them as precise as possible, but they will never, ever be 100% precise. So use these as indicators, as guidelines. Um, though we do not have the precision that maybe we would necessarily want, it's precise enough that we can use this to draw general conclusions as to what people are doing. And from those general conclusions, we can make informed decisions moving forward. Yes, don't get so accurate or obsess over it so much that you become metrics obsessed at the cost of performing an informed action. That is 100% correct, Vinya. Yep. Content is king, but context is queen. The king is maybe the point of the game in chess, but the king really doesn't do all that much, one square at a time. The queen's the one that's going around there kicking arse and taking names. So you never connected. Oh, the I'm guessing, Vinny, when you said you never. Oh, that's funny that you never connected that to saying to chess, because that was the first thing I thought of when you brought it up in your slide. I immediately thought of chess, and I immediately thought of, again, that whole idea that the king is maybe the most powerful, in that that's the person you need to capture to win the game, but they kind of don't do much. It's the queen that's running around actually taking care of business. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. It was a blast. I hope everybody learned something. And it was all about the friends we made along the way, right? Bye, everybody. I'll see you on the other side.